Hi, I'm Abhishek Bal, your host, and welcome back to my channel. If you had followed my yesterday's video about the curriculum updates for 2022 FRM Part 1 vis-a-vis FRM Part 1 in 2021, this video is a follow-up video to that and is especially dives into how one should approach the program over the next 4 5 months. What are the topic areas they are already covered in terms of their weightage, but what kind of effort that one needs to put into and what kind of yield that one may expect. Now, before I delve and dive deep into it, there's a small disclaimer that the opinion expressed are absolutely mine out here, and you should not generalize this. These highlights and display are based on my experience of teaching more than 1400 students over the last 5 to 7 years time, helping them pass their FRM exam. Now, based on their feedback, this is what I've arrived at. So the topic area weightages are already displayed out here. We would, for refreshing the whole thing altogether, your foundation of risk management carries a weight of 20%, followed by your quant another 20%, while the financial market products or FMP and the valuation model carry 30% weightage each. These weightages have not been altered since the last decade or more than that. However, what kind of effort that one needs to put into is what we are going to discuss at length. So, if you look at the bang for buck, and this is again a curated rankings that I have made. Foundation is the one wherein one needs to put in the least amount of effort and to get the maximum output. And oftentimes students actually ignore this very fact. They're hooked on, they're anchored on to the knowledge part of it, which by in itself is excellent thing to do. But one should also remember that it is not knowledge alone, but a well-built strategy that actually helps you pass competitive exam globally, like that of an FRM or even CFA. So to begin with, foundation is one topic area which would require the least amount of effort. When I say least, this is obviously on a relative scale to claim the maximum output of it. So in other words, it gives you, in other words, it gives you the highest return on your investment in terms of your time, of course. Whereas the quant area, though it carries the same amount of weightage, would require much more effort, and the result, obviously, it could vary from one individual to another individual depending upon one's background. But by and large, it's perhaps safe to say that it is not going to yield you the best of result, or at least historically, that's not been the case. Now, if I have to lay down the format in terms of the degree of difficulty, so as I said before, the foundation is one that has most of its portion in the easy grid. Only 20% is on the difficult grid, wherein the quant portion, even if one has a decent statistics background or one comes from a quant background itself, and if you're fresh out of college, that's otherwise. But if you're somebody who's returning to study schedule after a decade or so or 5 years or so, you still would have to work a little bit more. That is, even if you are coming from a well concerted quant background. And for the ones who are not from quant background, as it is going to be a little bit of a challenge. So I say that there is nothing actually in the easy category as far as the quantitative techniques are concerned. 50% of them are at least going to be moderately difficult, and the rest 50% are going to be difficult. Uh, FMP or financial market products, well, there's something evenly spread out. It is by far the largest topic area, having close to 20 chapters out of the 60 chapters. So in terms of the content, it's about 1/3 of the total readings, carrying 30% weightage. 20% of it would rank into the relative easiness, wherein 40% into moderate to difficult area, each 40% of each. Evaluation on the other side is, I would say, it swings between the easy part to the difficult part, with almost 25% of the syllabus being on the easy part and 45% on the difficult part, as I would say. So now, what it exactly means, why I actually laid down this topic and laid it down in the format that I have done it, because the way one approaches, that would make a difference in you actually acing this exam. Oftentimes, either through peer pressure or because of the coaching institutes or some of the providers that you are associated with, you'd be following a defined patterns. Well, I actually do take objection to that. The reason being that one should actually start with the one with which you are anybody who is comfortable with. If you're comfortable with quants, you come from a quant background, so I think you should start with quant first as your go-to topic area. But if you're not from quant and you still want to actually give a shot at this difficult exam, then I think it's a better idea to start with a topic like that of financial markets and products, so the FMP. So, depending upon which kind of background you are from, this is what I would suggest. And again, the reason being that, at the end of the day, you will definitely have to cover and you'll have to study through all the topic areas. There is no escape towards that. There's no escaping that. But if you start off on a wrong note, if you start on something of an intimidation, believe me, that's going to play havoc on your psyche itself. And it may not make your entire learning process that much more smooth. So you should start with something which is relatively easy or something which we are relatively comfortable with, and then build it up slowly. Okay, so from today, that is December 10, 2021 onwards, till May 7, that is the first day of the FRM Part 1 exam, spanning over the next couple of weeks. We have exactly 147 days with us in terms of weeks, which we have about 21 weeks in our hand. So how do we approach it? So I have devised a study sequence for all of you. It's a very simple NAT chart that I have prepared, and you can download it from my link provided in the description, or you could email me at my email ID, that is newavatar190@gmail.com, or analystmaster@outlook.com, and I'll be more than happy to share this NAT chart with you. Now, this is a very simplified version, and overall what I have done is that I have segregated this 21 weeks into 7 study session. Okay, so how do I build this seven study session? Of course, there are a couple of sequence of study that I have made. As I said before, that depending upon which background you come from, if you're from a quant background, then you should start with quant. This is a suggestion. But if you're not from quant background and quant appears to be a little bit of a challenge to you, then I suggest that you start with the FMP notes first. Regardless, so this is the time that you ought to be spending. So that is how you should be planning. The first 5 weeks, if you're taking quant as your first topic areas, assuming December 10th is your starting day, so the next 5 weeks should be spent in studying through the quant topic area, covering over close to 13 readings, followed by the next 5 weeks into financial markets and products. And as I said before, this is the lengthiest piece across all your FRM curriculum, and it would require substantial amount of effort on your part. But nonetheless, 5 weeks should be allocated towards that. So that makes it January 16, you would be starting off, and you'll be completing your first pass of financial market products on February 20, 2022. Similarly, followed by that is the evaluation and risk models. It should take another 4 weeks. And by March 20, 2022, you would have completed your evaluation and risk model, leaving the foundation and risk management, which, as I said before, that it's a relatively easy area, easy topic area. So you should be allocating close to about 10 days or 1.5 weeks to complete this. And by end of March, that is 31st of March, your first pass of the curriculum or the syllabus should be completed. That should be your target. Of course, individual study plan, action, and days to cover the program. The first pass, that may vary, but do ensure that you do not deviate. 5% here and there deviation, that's absolutely understandable. You need to have those kind of buffer in your study schedule as well, which is well embedded in the study schedule that I present here. But by and large, you should try to stick to the plan, and that is exactly why that I have actually made this NAT chart. All that you have to do once you download that, you fill in the start date and the end date, and it will automatically tell you how much of a percent completion you have done, if you're lagging behind, and whether you should be putting in more extra effort in order to meet the deadline. So once you have completed the first pass of the syllabus, then what you do, of course, what it requires after that is your a revision session. And for revision, I have allocated 3 weeks, the first 3 weeks of April 2022, followed by the mocks and tucks. So the mocks and tucks sessions are basically that, wherein you should be attempting the question banks, the GARP bust 10 years question banks, and the mocks that is offered at the GAPSO website. If any third-party provider that you're using, then obviously you should attempt those mocks. But as I said before also on many occasions, that please be selective about whom you partner with as far as your prep provider is concerned, because that is obviously going to make a hell lot of a difference. The market is engulfed with, believe me, with the dubious and not so credible provider, unfortunately, unlike in our times wherein we had only few providers, but then all of them were pretty much credible. Anyway, so the mocks and tux session should be there, should consume 1.5 weeks, wherein you should be attending as many mocks as possible, curated mocks of course, followed by the brushing up of all those weak areas, those the questions that you've gotten wrong, the concepts, the little bit of conceptual lacunas that you have had. So you should try to build on that, and the final week should be left for revising, doing the last minute revision. But the final week, I personally suggest that do not burden yourself much. Make your study session light yet enjoyable. So this is the broad-based 21 weeks program that I can lay in front of you as far as your study sequence is concerned. So study sequence 2 is exactly similar to study sequence 1, but for the change that you start with financial markets and products, as said before, instead of quant. So that is all there is to it. I hope you enjoyed the session, and I can be reached out at my given email ID, as I said before. Please do keep subscribe to my channel and keep it growing. I see you next.